think we've been operating in one of our entities for more than 40 years already in Ukraine. So we want to invest, we will continue to invest in Ukraine, and we see Ukraine as a very important country for us to keep going in the future, both for our seed business and for our crop protection business. I doubt you can feed the world, but every country, every place has a role to play. And the thing you have in Ukraine is you have a lot of land. You have a lot of agricultural land and very productive land. So there's no doubt that Ukraine is going to be very important in producing more and more food for the world. We know the mega trend of the population increase to 10 billion in the next 50 years, right? So that's countries the size of India and China being added to the world again. We know that every country has to play its part. And every acre of land has to be utilized and produce good food for the world. I think you have a very good reputation for food safety in the Ukraine. In fact, in the Global Food Security Index, you know, if we look at that, Ukraine comes number 63. In that list out of 113. If you look at the inside of that, food safety is actually is well done in the Ukraine. Is something that is not a concern, at least on that index. So I think you have a good reputation, but I think transparency is really critical. So transparency from the grower to the consumer is a really critical thing for every country, Ukraine included, going forward. I think we need to look at the whole set of partners involved in agriculture and make sure we're communicating to the end user, which is the consumer. The consumer, I feel, doesn't get enough information today from everybody. I think we talked earlier about traceability, for example. The consumer might wish to look at labels on his food or her food as they buy them and say, oh, this comes from this farm, this farmer. Maybe they'll even have a preference for, you know, the actual producer. And maybe on the internet, they can find all about that producer. So they can feel comfortable, oh, this farmer is farming responsibly, is doing all these initiatives, which many farmers do. Many farmers have many sustainability issues. In the end, they're the stewards of their land. So farmers, you know, are doing a lot that maybe is not known about. I talked about food production before and the fact we have more people and we need to produce more. Equally, it's a concern of food waste and the waste. So I think we lose 30% of our food that we produce, right? And that's the harvested. So in the field we lose more, but of the harvested food that comes out, we're still wasting a lot in the food chain. And that's tremendously important for the consumer that we stop doing that. We must find ways of preserving the food, getting it to people, because starvation and food shortage is a big issue around the world, and we cannot give away 30% of our food, just throwing it away. So I was pleased to hear earlier on the discussion, and everybody in the chain is looking at ways of reducing wastage. Everybody along the transportation, or whether you're in the supermarket, everybody, or whether you're in a restaurant. The restaurateurs do not want to waste food either, and we heard that. So I think everybody has to get in this together and find ways to do it. It's absolutely critical. We also have the same problem, I would say, and one thing we're doing more and more is giving food to food banks and making food available to people. So if the supermarket feels like it's not saleable, or if it's beyond some date, but it's still really nutritious and still good food, then there's more donations possible. And I think that's for the good of society. In fact, this food is still nutritious. So the fact we waste it, we should make use, find other uses for it. So in Britain, that's a growing trend, that we try to make this food available to other people. And I don't know in Ukraine, I hope it could be a similar thing, to make this food available.